Have you ever found yourself comparing yourself to other people? In our society, that's really hard not to do, right? We see this in sports and entertainment or jobs and careers. We get evaluated and we get ranked, and it is almost always our ranking is compared to everyone else in this category. And so it's really hard for us not to have that mindset of comparing ourselves. And is that good or is that bad, to compare yourself? Well, I think that depends on your intentions, your reasons for doing that. If you haven't seen my message on your intentions, look that one up. Your intentions make a difference on whether that's good or bad. The other thing that makes that, whether it's good or bad, would be how you go about it. And I want to talk about that. So is comparing good or bad? I think it's okay to look around and see the success and the struggles of other people and kind of broaden our perspective and understanding of people and situations and how things come together. And there are times we've even been counseled to make comparisons. You ever heard this? If you think your life is hard and difficult, maybe you should consider maybe people who live in a place where they're not even sure they're going to get enough food to eat today. So you make that comparison, say, oh yeah, I guess I'm doing pretty well, right? The problem that I really see with this comparison is most of the time the way we go about it in our society, it is more destructive than constructive. And so what I see happening is we tend to look at ourselves and everybody else and say, well, I'm doing good or not so good, or I'm progressing or I'm not progressing, compared to someone else who's doing better or worse. So if I am doing good or not good, progressing or not progressing, only because someone else is better or worse, then I'm actually losing my ability to make changes. Because I view where I'm at only in relation to where someone else is. So have you ever been going down an interstate highway, these multi-lane interstate highways, and you're cruising along at 70 miles an hour, and a great big semi-truck just slowly creeps up to your side. And as you're going along 70 miles an hour, and here they come like this, and they don't just zoom past real fast, they're just slowly creep up, and that great big truck just eases its way forward and gets ahead of you. And have you ever experienced that? And for a few seconds there, it feels like you're going backwards. Have you ever had that experience? It kind of messes with your head just a little bit. For a minute there, it feels like you're going backward, but you know you're not. You know you didn't just suddenly at 70 miles an hour hit reverse, but you have that experience. And I think sometimes as we're comparing ourselves to other people, we get that same sensation that I thought I was going along really good until coming up right next to me, suddenly I felt like I was in reverse. So it's like we're all climbing this ladder and making those comparisons. I don't have to go anywhere. I can stay stuck right here at the level that I'm at. If I want to feel like I'm progressing and accomplished, I just look below me. And if I look up, then I'm going to feel inadequate, like I'm not good enough. It's going to be discouraging. I say, wow, I can't get up there. There's not enough room. It's crowded up there. And really, the reality is we're all climbing our own ladder. There's no one below us. There's no one above us. Or if you like to climb mountains, some people would rather climb mountains. So we all have to ascend our own ladder and climb our own mountains. And there's plenty of room at the top of our own ladder or at the top of our own mountain. So I have found that there's really only two constructive or helpful ways to make comparisons. And the first one is if I compare me to me. I compare me where I am today to where I was yesterday, and I compare where I am right now to where I want to be tomorrow. Those kinds of comparisons can be productive and helpful to help you feel good where you're at and to keep moving forward. The other way to compare that is helpful is if I compare my strengths to your strengths, and then we know how to help each other. Those are the two ways that I think comparisons are productive and helpful for us. Well, since I do a lot of work in relationships of all kinds, but my wife and I really focus on helping with marriage relationships, I have seen this unhealthy kind of comparison even happening between husband and wife. For example, one of you has in your job or in other activities, groups that you're involved in, you get a lot of praise and recognition, and your spouse feels left out, neglected, sometimes even envious. Maybe with the way you interact with your kids and the way the situation is and the time that you get to spend with them, maybe one of you seems to be more favored by your children than the other. And sometimes that can be hurtful. I got to tell you a story about when our family was young. Just had 2 or 3 little girls, and so our second daughter, 2 or 3 years old, somewhere in there, she really was into the pretending and drama, and she would, when I'd get home from work, she would want to role play with me, and she would direct everything and tell us what to say and what to do. And so she would say, "Let's play Wizard of Oz," and she was really articulate for her young age. But between 2 and 3 years old, we were doing this, and she says, "I'm Dorothy, and Dad, I want you to be Tin Man." Oh, great, because I have a heart. Tin Man, he's going to get his heart. And she'd look at Mom and say, "Mom, you can be the Wicked Witch." And we laugh at that. But so we could make that comparison. And then she'd want to play Jungle Book, and she says, "I'm Mowgli. Dad, I want you to be Baloo." Because, right, Baloo was Mowgli's best friend, right? And she'd look at her mother and say, "Mom, you can be Shere Khan." That was good for me. Of course, that made me feel good. I got to be the sidekick. You know, I was the leading, or she was the leading role. I was the, what do they call that? The supportive. I could get the award for the best supporting role. But my wife could have made that comparison and felt hurt and envious. And really, you got to understand, my daughter was just looking for people to fill those roles. And see, my wife was doing the hard work. She was home all day taking care of all of the house stuff, all of the children's stuff, all of the organizing and managing of a household and finances and all of that. I would go to work, be gone all day, and come home, and I wasn't having to deal with any of the stress of home life. I could not have filled that role for my daughter without my wife. So it was because of her that I got to be that for my daughter. We need to not make those comparisons sometimes. So I just want to finish explaining that my wife was not really like Shere Khan. She was not like the Wicked Witch. But I'm sure that my daughter saw in her more of that stress being released in ways than what she saw from me. And had we switched, I'm sure the roles would have been switched. But I am grateful for my wife's contribution to me being able to fill that role. And so instead of making those comparisons, I see this happening in marriages. Instead of making those comparisons, realize that you're married, you're a team, you're a unit, you're like a car. Yeah, a car. Because when you get in your car and you go somewhere and you reach your destination safely, maybe the thing that you're most grateful for and praise the most is the comfy seats. When really, maybe if you would take notice, the whole reason those comfy seats got you there safely is because the engine worked well. Or maybe it had more to do with the tires. They were all inflated and worked well. Or maybe it was the axles that the tires were on. Or maybe it had mostly to do with the gas that was in the tank. Maybe that's what got you there. Or maybe it was the battery that actually got the whole process started. You're a team. You're like the car. You don't need to identify which part was really the leading role. It was the fact that it all worked together. The whole thing. It was the car, all of it got you there. So in your marriage, don't make these comparisons between husband and wife. Who's greater? Who's struggling most? You're a team, you're a unit, you're one. It's the same. Just realize that success, praise, recognition for one only is happening because the other is there contributing in some way. They're a part of it. So I just want to encourage you to just be aware of that. Be aware of how you're making those comparisons. Don't fall in with our society's normal way of these comparisons that they're actually going to drive wedges in your relationship. Compare where you are today to where you were yesterday and where you want to be tomorrow. Compare husband's strengths with wife's strengths so that you know how to better help each other and as a unit move on. And just remember, when one succeeds, you both succeed. That's what you are, one and the same.